Welcome to the weekly MindSweep number 212, Curated Conversation, Intuition. When your intuition speaks, what do you do with it? I've come to recognize a certain moment because, well, it keeps happening, and I'm a pattern recognizer. It shows up when I'm about to soften a boundary I already know should stay firm. Everything looks reasonable at first. I reread the email, watching the cursor blink as I think deeply about my reply. The request is polite and thoughtful. I can easily find reasons to say yes because it seems manageable and flexible. I say to myself, I can make this work. There's no clear warning sign. Nothing feels off. It's just a well-written request, and my calendar technically has room for it. Saying yes would seem generous, flexible, and mature. The kind of response that keeps things running smoothly and everyone comfortable. And yet, before I finish the sentence in my head, my body has already responded. It's not panic or excitement. It's not even the kind of resistance we usually talk about. There's no rush of adrenaline or strong sense of dread. Instead, what I feel is much quieter. This isn't the urgent kind of intuition that pushes for action. It's a slower intuition that comes without pressure. I notice a subtle heaviness in my chest and a slight tightening that doesn't demand my attention, but also doesn't go away. It's like something inside me is pressing pause, not to stop me, but to slow things down so I can notice what's really happening. This is the moment I need to notice most. When my intuition is clearest, it doesn't get loud or try and convince me. It quietly offers a sentence I'd rather not hear. That heaviness is how I know it's speaking, and it usually says, "This will cost you more than you think." Almost right away, another voice appears. My logical side steps in, ready to make things feel manageable. It starts collecting reasons, reminding me of times when being flexible worked out. It brings up examples from the past when things went well and frames the decision as thoughtful, kind, and strategically smart. For a moment, it feels like intuition, except it's not. It's familiarity and conditioning. Our brain tries to keep the peace and avoid discomfort by telling a convincing, responsible sounding story, making it seem wise to ignore that quiet signal from your body. When I've crossed these boundaries before, regret never comes right away. It always shows up later, quietly and predictably, as resentment, exhaustion, or a subtle sense of self-betrayal that's hard to name but impossible to ignore. When I look back, I always recognize the pattern. I knew, quietly and without explanation. The question I'm learning to ask now is not, did I listen to my intuition? It's, what did I mistake for it? We often treat intuition as something we must obey, like a command or a rule. For many creative ADHD wired entrepreneurs, this way of thinking causes more confusion than clarity. Intuition does not always arrive as a clear yes or no. Sometimes it shows up as friction or hesitation. Sometimes it's a body signal that contradicts what looks good on paper. When we grow up learning to value logic, productivity, and being liked, we tend to ignore those signals, and especially if they slow us down. Remember, our brains love to reserve energy. This is where discernment matters. It's the pause that lets you feel whether you are responding from wisdom or reacting from habit. Discernment isn't the same as obedience. Obedience says, I have to act on this right now. Discernment says, let me sit with this long enough to really understand what's going on. Intuition doesn't demand urgency, fear does, and so do old habits and stories. So when intuition comes from experience, it's quiet, specific, and balanced. It doesn't take over your attention or push you to decide right away. Urgency, on the other hand, speeds things up and makes pressure feel important. Intuition simply gives you the information and waits for you to use discernment. I'm not here to define your intuition or give you a perfect system. Curated conversation is about noticing things clearly together. Intuition doesn't grow just in your mind, but also through your body, your experiences, and the people who help you see what you've normalized. Noticing is the work. If you're standing at the edge of a decision right now, especially one involving boundaries, try this instead of asking, what should I do? Pause and ask yourself, what does this feel like in my body? Without trying to explain it away. For example, do you feel heaviness or tension that hints at hesitation or unease? Or do you feel lightness that signals discomfort? Is there urgency or just discomfort? What story are you telling yourself to make this decision seem okay? If you didn't have to decide today what might become clear, then stop. Not forever, just long enough to let discernment do its job. Intuition isn't a final answer, it's a signal. Signals are there to be understood, not just followed or ignored. From a neuroscience perspective, intuition isn't mystical, it's biological. It's your brain pulling together past experiences, emotional memories, and body signals faster than you can think about them. Parts of your brain that handle emotions and body awareness help your nervous system notice situations that feel like past experiences, especially those that affect your safety, energy, or sense of self. That's why intuition often shows up as a feeling before you can put it into words. When something feels wrong before you can explain it, it's often your nervous system trying to protect your energy or sense of self based on what you've been through before. Fear, on the other hand, usually brings urgency and mental noise. It pushes you to fix things right away and uses logic to justify avoiding or pleasing others. Discernment lets a third process start working. This part of your brain slows things down, brings together different signals, and help you update old stories instead of repeating them. If you feel unclear, conflicted, or hesitant, it doesn't mean that you're failing to trust yourself. It might just mean your brain needs more space. Every time I notice that quiet heaviness before softening a boundary, I'm reminded intuition isn't an order. It asks to be noticed. February isn't about becoming more intuitive. It's about slowing down enough to notice the difference between intuition and the stories we've learned to trust instead. It's about seeing the difference between real guidance and fear masquerading as logic, and between real flexibility and self-abandonment. This is especially important for ADHD creative entrepreneurs because we think quickly, spot patterns, and look for meaning. Without discernment, we can just as easily argue against ourselves as support our own growth. So, as we begin our month together, I'll ask you this. Where in business or your life have you been calling something intuition when it might actually be conditioning? What if you allowed yourself to slow down and sit with your feelings a little longer before deciding? That deliberate pause can help you distinguish intuition from conditioning, create space for real change. That moment of pause before saying yes is a chance to reflect and understand yourself better. Treat it as an invitation to deeper self-awareness. Next week in Mind Your Business Intuition, we'll explore what this looks like in the day-to-day reality of creative entrepreneurship, where instinct, risk, identity, and money all collide. For now, notice what your body recognizes. From there, we'll move forward together with clarity and purpose. You belong here, I can help. Intuition is powerful, but it's not a business plan. If you want support turning what you sense into decisions you can trust, I work with creative entrepreneurs as a brain-based business strategist, blending neuroscience, discernment, and real-world strategy to help you move forward with clarity, not urgency. And if you're interested about curated conversation and this resonated, you don't have to sit with it alone. Curated Conversation is a weekly live space for heart-centered, ADHD-wired entrepreneurs to slow down, reflect together, and learn to distinguish intuition, conditioning, and fear disguised as logic. If you've never joined us, your first month is free. Come sit in the room. Listen if you want, speak if you're ready, stay if it feels like home. We meet Mondays at 8 a.m. We start with coffee. Belonging is included. You can learn about Curated Conversation or book a free consultation at my website, chickbookcreative.com.